friends. All right, we just finished chapter 10 of James and the Giant Peach, and he had just gotten to the middle, to the stone or the pit of the peach. And he had discovered that there were somebodies living in the middle of the peach. So now let's read and find out who it is, and maybe why they're there. Chapter 11. James's large, frightened eyes traveled slowly around the room. The creatures, some sitting on chairs, others reclining on a sofa, were all watching him intently. Creatures? Or were they insects? An insect is usually something rather small, is it not? A grasshopper, for example, is an insect, right? So, what would you call if you saw a grasshopper as large as a dog? As large as a large dog? You could hardly call that an insect. Could you? There was an old green grasshopper, as large as a large dog, sitting directly across the room from James now. And next to the old green grasshopper, there was an enormous spider. And then next to the spider, there was a giant ladybird with 9 black spots on her scarlet shell. A ladybird and a ladybug are the same thing. Each of these 3 was squatting upon a magnificent chair. On a sofa nearby, reclining comfortably in curled-up positions, there were a centipede and an earthworm. On the floor, over in the far corner, there was something thick and white, as though it might be a silkworm, but it was sleeping soundly, and nobody was paying any attention to it. Every single one of these creatures was at least as big as James himself, and in the strange greenish light that shone down from somewhere by the ceiling, they were absolutely terrifying to behold. "I'm hungry," the spider announced suddenly, staring hard at James. "I'm famished," the old green grasshopper said. "So am I," the ladybird cried, and the centipede sat up a little straighter on the sofa. So before I keep reading, I want you to look at them. Do you think that they're up to something? Do you think that they're going to be mean? I don't know. Let's find out. The centipede sat up a little straighter on the sofa. "Everyone's famished," he said. "We need food." 4 pairs of round, black, glassy eyes were all fixed upon James. The centipede made a wriggling movement with his body, as though he were about to glide off the sofa. But he didn't. There was a long pause, and a long silence. The spider, who happened to be a female spider, opened her mouth and ran a long black tongue delicately over her lips. "Aren't you hungry?" she asked suddenly, leaning forward and addressing herself to James. Poor James was backed up against the far wall, shivering with fright and much too terrified to answer. "What's the matter with you?" the old green grasshopper asked. "You look positively ill." "He looks as though he's going to faint any second," the centipede said. "Oh my goodness, the poor thing!" the ladybird cried. "I do believe he thinks that it's him that we want to eat." There was a roar of laughter from all sides. Oh dear, they said. "What an awful thought." "You mustn't be frightened," said the ladybird kindly. "We wouldn't dream of hurting you. You are one of us now. Didn't you know that? You are one of the crew. We're all in the same boat." "We've been waiting for you all day long," the old green grasshopper said. "We thought you were never going to turn up. We're so glad you made it." "So cheer up, my boy. Cheer up," the centipede said. "And meanwhile, I wish you'd come over here and give me a hand with these boots. It takes me hours to get them all off myself." So they didn't eat them. They're perfectly pleasant, happy bugs. Let's find out what kind of adventures they're going to go on now. Chapter 12. James decided that this was most certainly not a time to be disagreeable, so he crossed the room to where the centipede was sitting and knelt down beside him. "Thank you so much," the centipede said. "You are very kind." "You do have a lot of boots," James murmured. Look, he's helping him take off all his boots. "I do have a lot of legs," the centipede answered proudly, "and a lot of feet, 100 to be exact." "There he goes again," the earthworm cried, speaking for the first time. "He simply cannot stop telling lies about his leg. He doesn't have anything like 100 of them. He's only got 42. The trouble is that most people don't bother to count them. They just take his word. And anyway, there's nothing marvelous, centipede, about having a lot of legs." "Poor fellow," the centipede said, whispering in James's ear. He's blind. He can't see how splendid I look. In my opinion, the earthworm said, the really marvelous thing is to have no legs at all and be able to walk just the same. You call that walking? Cried the centipede. You're a slitherer. That's all you do. You just slither along. I glide, said the earthworm primly. You are a slimy beast, answered the centipede. I am not a slimy beast, the earthworm said. I am useful and a much-loved creature. Ask any gardener you like. And as for you, I am a pest, the centipede announced, grinning broadly and looking around the room for approval. He is so proud of that, the ladybird said, smiling at James, though for the life of me I cannot understand why. I am the only pest in this room, cried the centipede, still grinning away. Unless you count old green grasshopper over there, but he is long past it now. He's too old to be a pest any more. The old green grasshopper turned his huge black eyes upon the centipede and gave him a withering look. Young fellow, he said, speaking in a deep, slow, scornful voice, I have never been a pest in my life. I am a musician. Hear, hear, said the ladybird. James, the centipede said. Your name is James, isn't it? Yes. Well, James, have you ever seen in your life such a marvelous, colossal centipede as me? I certainly haven't, James answered. How on earth did you get to be like that? Very peculiar, the centipede said. Very, very peculiar indeed. Let me tell you what happened. I was messing about in the garden under the old peach tree, and suddenly a funny little green thing came wriggling past my nose. Bright green it was, extraordinary beautiful. It looked like some kind of tiny stone or crystal. Do you remember? Oh, but I know what that was, cried James. And it happened to me too, said the ladybird. And me, Miss Spider said. Suddenly there were little green things everywhere. The soil was full of them. I actually swallowed one, the earthworm declared proudly. So did I, the ladybird said. I swallowed 3, the centipede cried. But who's telling the story anyway? Don't interrupt. It's too late to tell stories now, the old green grasshopper announced. It's time to go to sleep. I refuse to sleep in my boots, the centipede cried. How many more are there to come off, James? I think I've done about 20 so far, James told him. That leaves 80 to go, the centipede said. 22, not 80, shrieked the earthworm. He's lying again. The centipede roared with laughter. Stop pulling the earthworm's leg, the ladybird said. This sent the centipede into hysterics. Pulling his leg, he cried, wriggling with glee and pointing at the earthworm. Which leg am I pulling? You tell me that. James decided that he rather liked the centipede. He was obviously a rascal, but what a change it was to hear somebody laughing once in a while. He had never heard Aunt Sponge or Aunt Spiker laughing aloud in all the time he had been with them. We really must get some sleep, the old green grasshopper said. We've got a tough day ahead of us tomorrow, so would you be kind enough, Miss Spider, to make our beds? And that's where we're going to stop for tonight. We just read chapter 11 and chapter 12. We will start with chapter 13 with them going off to sleep tomorrow. So now we have James, we have the old green grasshopper, we have Ladybird, we have Miss Spider, we have the centipede, we have the earthworm. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Can you guys help me? Do you guys think that maybe you could draw me a picture or write me a story about how or what were they like before they met the little green crystal bugs? If you can't, that's okay. But maybe you can. If you can't, think of what interesting things they might have done as actual itty-bitty bugs before they became these great, huge bugs that lived in the peach. All right, my friends, I miss you all so much. I will see you soon. Bye.